Hello, and welcome back to Baby Elias's stories. We now return to Blade Runner 4, I and Talon, by K.W. Jeter. Chapter 9. You should have brought it to me. Hands clasped between his knees, Meyer leaned forward in the chair beside the hospital bed. Straight off, I could have helped you. It was still hard for Iris to talk. Her tongue felt like some formerly living part which had been extracted and embalmed, then sewn back into her mouth. Now, overly sensitized, she could feel the muscles at the back of her neck contract and release against the starchy white pillow as she forced out one word after another. Now you tell me. For Christ's sake! Meyer sounded both angry and disgusted. He picked up the paper cup from the table, fished out a thawed, smooth ice chip between his thumb and forefinger, and placed it between Iris's lips. As if you didn't know already. Or you should have known, if you hadn't been trying to be so fucking clever. You're right. His gratefully let the cold liquid trickle into her throat. Still raw feeling from the air passage tube that the doctors had shoved down it like an unpleasant sexual encounter. That's my problem. Your problem, said Meyer, is not trusting people, or at least the ones you should trust, like me. No, instead you've got your brain jacked up into overdrive all the time, turning every little thing over and over like a monkey with a nut, looking for the way to crack it and find out what's inside. He shook his head. You can't just deal with things on the surface. Everything's gotta be a big mystery to be solved. Come on, ease up on me. Iris felt worse now than she had when the emergency paramedics spinner had dumped her off on top of the LAPD hospital tower. Then she had been doped up, an IV morphine drip, fat as a baby anaconda needled into her wrist by one of the angels in their blood-spattered lime green surgical scrubs. The anesthetic had been in addition to most of her cerebral cortex having been shut down by the jolt she had received from the booby-trapped chat. I already feel like crap. It's what you deserve, grumbled Meyer. You're so sympathetic. Not my job to be. Like it wasn't your job to take that owl home and babysit the damn thing. What your job was to get it and bring it to me. And that's all. Sorry. Iris barely opened one eye and watched as Meyer pushed himself up from the chair and began pacing back and forth in the small, equipment-crowded room. I screwed up. No shit! Meyer was as angry-looking as she had ever seen him. This one's gonna cost us both. Big time. My ass is on the line in about 12 different locales, mainly upstairs at the police station. Major heat. And for what? He had already crossed the room a half dozen times. Now he stopped and swung his dark gaze back at her. And what did you accomplish with your flipped-out, paranoiac ratiocination? Nada! Less than. She wondered how long he was going to go on chewing her out. I agree. For Christ's sake, Iris, you had the goddamn bird in your hands. Teeth gritted, Meyer let his own hands curl into fists, as though he were laying hold of the object under discussion. In the bag. All you would have had to do was drop it in my lap, just like that. And you and I would both be golden in the department. No matter what we done to pull it off, we could have cleaned out the armory and sold it to the Uzbeki gun runners, and nobody would have cared. Didn't I make that clear to you at the beginning? How important this stupid owl is? Or was I only talking to myself? I heard you. Iris managed a small nod. The first time. You didn't hear me enough then. Meyer slowly shook his head, the anger visibly drained out of him, as though his choleric skin was no more than a punctured balloon. Not nearly enough. He sat down heavily on the corner of the high hospital bed, barely clearing the monitoring wires and the tubes from the dangling plastic bags. I gotta tell you, Iris, I don't see the way out of this one. His shoulders slumped forward, bearing the weight of his sorrows. There's not a lot of favors I've got left that I can call in. You and I were both pretty much overdrawn on those accounts before we even got into this mess. Wait a minute. Iris managed to struggle a little higher on the pillows stacked behind her. What are you talking about? Her movements sent microscopic bubbles up through the dear Ringer's solution seeping into her body. I thought I was number one in the whole division. Yeah, right. The fair-haired girl. Killing machines like you are always popular with the top brass. Meyer's disgust was audible, and every spat-out word. For a while, at least. But any time somebody goes on too long, being a little too good at what she does, then the supervisor types start getting nervous. You're supposed to burn out, hit the low end of the Wambog curve, drop out of the division, or kill yourself, or find some way to get killed on the job. If nothing else, it saves the department heaps of money it'd otherwise have to pay out in retirement benefits. I mean the kind of retirement where you're still living and breathing. That kind is expensive compared to a good, clean suicide. It'd take a lot of money to keep all of yesterday's Blade Runners in some old folks' home, stocked with enough cheap booze and adult incontinency undergarments so they didn't come back out on the streets waving their guns around and embarrassing everybody. Sure. The image evoked a feeble, wry smile from Iris. Give me a break, Meyer. I don't think the department's really worried about what I'm going to be like when I'm 80, if I make it that far. You won't at this rate. Meyer's anger had ebbed to the point that the expression on his face was almost pitying. Stupidity has a low survival value, especially in this business. The thin fabric of the hospital gown shifted across her body as her shoulders lifted in a shrug. I've done all right. Up until now, said Meyer, but that's over. His words produced a chilling crawl of flesh beneath the bandages that kept the tubes in place. What do you mean? Over. As in over for you. You're done. Finito. All right, Iris nodded. Whatever. I didn't care for this whole owl business anyway. I'd rather be out on the streets taking care of real Blade Runner business. You don't get it, do you? The pity in Myers' eyes was even more obvious now. When I say over, I mean all the way over. You're not just done. You're out. As in, goodbye. Get the picture? Iris couldn't believe what she'd heard. You mean out of the division? The division, the department, the cop business, the whole 9 yards. Maya reached over and gently patted her knee beneath the hospital bed blanket. You're busted, sweetheart. Right on your sweet ass. You'll be going back out on the streets, all right. The nurses told me you'd be on your feet again in a couple of days. But you won't be going out there as any kind of cop. It's civilian time for you again. Little people. The tenderness faded from Myers' voice, and his hand squeezed viciously tight on her leg. Know what I mean? Yeah, said Iris. I sure do. The anger surging up from her gut produced enough strength for a backhanded swing of one fist, connecting hard enough against Myers' jaw to knock him against the bed's metal end rail. One of the dehydration tubes tore loose from the needle inserted in Iris' wrist, spraying clear fluid across the top blanket. A trickle of blood seeped from under the loosened bandage and through her knuckles. You son of a bitch! You sold me out, or you set me up. I don't know which one's worse. Fury turned the edges of her vision red, as though the blood had gotten into her eyes. This whole thing was a screw right from the beginning. Hey, you want to think that? Fine. Maya rubbed the bruise at the side of his jaw. I'm glad it makes you feel better about it, because there aren't going to be a lot of bright spots in your life after this. And you know what I mean about that, too, I bet. Nobody works as a cop for very long, at least in a city like LA, without making more enemies than friends, both on the streets and inside the department. Believe me, I should know. He took his hand away from his face and used it to lay a finger on the lapel of his tailored jacket. But now there's a difference between you and me. The finger pointed in Iris's direction. I'm still a cop, and you're not. I've still got some protection going for me. At least as long as the department knows that it's a negative morale inducer for the troops to see some other cop get thrown to the street wolves. I might get ripped up pretty good over this Al fiasco, but I'm still on the inside, out of the rain. And in the rain is where you're going to be when the hospital finally boots you. And that's a cold, wet place to be. Myers smiled humorlessly. But don't worry, ex-cops don't last long there. Your suffering will be over relatively quickly. His eyes drew into slits as she regarded her ex-boss. I'll do all right, said Iris. Let's just say that my job skills are transferable. Sure they are, and you'll be fine, Myers shrugged. You want to bullshit yourself about your survival chances? Then I'm happy to help you. It's the least I can do for old time's sake. His smile became genuine and regretful. We did some good work together, Iris. Killed off a lot of things that look exactly like you and me. Or at least close enough to pass as human. That's got to count for something these days. Spare me. Iris folded her arms, dragging the still attached tubes and wires with them across the front of the hospital gown. If it meant so much to you, she said bitterly, I wouldn't be getting tossed like last night's condom. Well, that's business. With a sigh, Meyer stood up from the corner of the bed. He stepped toward the room's door, not far, and laid his hand on the metal knob, then looked back at her. You didn't trust me, Iris, and you should have. The one time when you really needed to, for both our sakes. And you didn't. Watching him as he stood at the door, Iris found herself with nothing to say. Take care of yourself. Meyer pulled the door open, revealing the bright-lit corridor beyond, and the murmuring, uneasy silence of the clicking machines and green-lined monitors inside other rooms, beside other beds. How about doing me a favor, though? Last one. Iris hesitated a moment, then nodded. Name it. Whatever happens to you out there, he indicated the city beyond the room's blank wall. Make sure I don't hear about it. All right. She gave another nod. It means, thought Iris, that he really cares, whatever that was worth. It's a deal. I guess I owe you that much. I appreciate it. Meyer started to step through the open doorway, then stopped and turned back toward the bed. Got something for you? He dug one hand through his outside jacket pocket. A souvenir. Something to remember your last official cop job by. Like I'd want to? Your decision, Meyer shrugged. With this, though, you'll be able to say that at least you got your hands on it. He tossed a small object to her. That's something, given the circumstances. She caught it between her palms, then opened them side by side to see what it was. For a moment, she had the bizarre notion that her old boss was proposing marriage to her. A metal ring lay in her hands, but it was too small and made of some dull, lead-looking metal rather than gold, as though it were part of some miniaturized bondage gear. A chain of even smaller links dangled from the metal. Then Iris realized she had seen it before, on the leg of the owl. The band that had kept the creature tethered to its perch had been pried open at one side, presumably by its present captor, the one who had taken it from her. All that's left, said Meyer. Left behind. Yours to keep now, forever and ever, or maybe a little less than that. Whether it was meant as cruel or tender, Iris didn't know. And he doesn't know, she thought. Not about the gift's intent, but the clue it contained, that she had felt when she rubbed her thumb inside the broken band, something that broke the smoothness of the metal, like tiny microscopic scratches. Meyer could have drawn his thumb across them, and probably had, but hadn't felt them. A woman's touch, thought Iris. That's what it takes. She didn't say anything about it, but closed the band in its dangling chain inside her fist. Thanks. I'll treasure it always. A slow nod of her head. You don't know how much it means. Don't go overboard, said Meyer. And sarcasm's wasted on me, like everything else. He stepped out into the corridor and pulled the door shut behind him. As soon as the sound of his footsteps had faded away, Iris was out of the bed, blanket and sheets thrown back, the tubes and wires yanked off her skin. Barefoot, she tugged open the closet tucked into the corner of the small room. Beneath the unlit television on its wall bracket, and found her clothes hanging inside, even the leatherite jacket with its bullet-torn sleeve. The paramedics must have scooped it up along with her unconscious body. That was a lucky break, the only real one she'd had in a long time. Adrenaline and the effort of getting dressed before anyone discovered what she was doing left her dizzy. She had to lean her shoulder against the wall until the dancing black spots disappeared from in front of her eyes. Then she was out the door and down the corridor as silently as possible, past the beds. Nobody at the nurse's station looked up as she passed by them. In the elevator, Iris had just enough strength left to punch the ground floor button, then keep herself upright, slumped against one corner, as the machine descended to the dark city streets.